I'm sorry, the only sense of the time I have is that it's my bedtime. So I don't know how long where we're... Okay, we're doing all right then, time-wise? Good, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present some of my research while I'm here, to give you a little bit of a sense of the work that I do. John provided a very kind introduction already. I'll just say a couple more words. I actually probably went a little overboard on the sort of awards I've won. I don't really have that many awards, but I do some interesting research, and which I think hopefully will appeal to students as well as colleagues here. As John mentioned, my work sort of is at the intersection of governance, how we govern, manage systems, make decisions about resources in the environment, how we involve people in those decision-making processes, and how people learn when they are active in those things. Part of the thesis of my work is that if we're going to make gains on this sustainability project we're all interested in, then learning has to be a fundamental part of that. Everybody involved in a governance activity has to find a way to learn. So over the years I've spent a lot of time looking at participation, how people have been involved in decision making, and that fortunately for me hasn't just happened in Canada, it's happened in other parts of the world, so I have comparisons and can understand what's happening in other places. And one of those places is India. And as John has already mentioned, the title of my talk, and I just wanted to add that Meru Thakur is here today with us. Meru joined me from India so that he could come and see Thailand. We've been working in India, this isn't actually Meru's part of India, he's from the mountains, but not this part of the mountains. We've been working in India since 1992, and I was saying at lunch that I've now had 11 graduate students do their master's or PhD research in India. I actually went to India and had students working there since 1994. So this project is an ongoing project for us in India. I have a student there right now. She's working on food security. And we continue to try to look at sustainability issues in the mountain context. So my focus, I have colleagues at the Natural Resources Institute that have worked in the plains and on the coasts, but my focus has been on the mountains. This particular project, the Hydro project, is part of a larger project as well, where we're looking at the public, private, and the roles of the private, public, and civic sectors in achieving sustainability. And we're trying to find out arrangements that optimize each of those sectors' strengths, so they can bring out their strengths and hopefully through that process make better policy decisions. Just to give you a little sense of where this work is, it's the central Himalaya is where Uttarakhand is, and we worked close to Nanda Devi and Josimat. You can see on that map was our study site, which I'll show you in just a minute. The area where Meru is from is Himachal Pradesh, which is to the west and north. And he's from the area of Manali, where we've had a whole bunch of students do work. And we've also done work in the eastern Himalaya in India around Darjeeling. Just to give you a little sense, this is Josimat, which is the main center of Chamoli district. So this is an area that is a service community. It provides services for communities around. People come here to do their shopping and things like that. And it also has provided a center for industry. It's a very beautiful area. It's spectacular. Siddhapong was saying it looks like it's Photoshopped. This is not Photoshopped. This is Meru and his wife Nisha. And we went up to Oli. This is the Indian ski area. Ollie is the downhill ski area. And we went up, I think the ropeway is 4.5 kilometers long. And we only got up there by chance because they were testing it while we were there. So we got to get it, the season hadn't started yet, so we got to go up the ropeway. The peak that you see with the clouds, snow cloud coming off it, is Nanda Devi. Nanda Devi is a very famous peak in India and provided some of the research work around that we did in the area, because Nanda Devi used to be home to a lot of mountain climbing, but it's now not, because it's a protected area. It was thought to be the largest mountain in India, but in fact it's the second highest they've discovered over the years. Kanchenjunga is the highest. This shot, we're probably at about 2,600 meters in elevation where we're sitting. Josimat sits at about 2,000 meters. As part of this project, we looked at multiple case studies. So we had work on adventure tourism, we had work on waste management, we had work on microhydro, and we had work on mesohydro. So one of the things that's happening in India is the mountains are a resource frontier, particularly for energy and tourism, but also, as we're finding out, for agriculture, which is sort of surprising. But with climate variability and lack of water in some places like the Punjab, and flooding, there's advantage to actually growing vegetable crops. Believe it or not, we found out this most recent research that McDonald's is growing lettuce in the mountains of India. Not for external markets, for the internal market, but nonetheless I was shocked to find that out. So we've been looking at development in mountain ecosystems, and one of the very important parts of the development activity that's going on is hydro development. For all intensive purposes, the mountains are being made into Swiss cheese. Rivers are being diverted here, there, and the other way to create energy. Unlike China, India has an energy deficit. They are not generating enough energy for their needs. I remember doing interviews in Josimat, and brownouts in that area, they happen basically on a daily basis. So I was interviewing this man in his hotel, and I asked him about his problem with power, and that question came at about the same time that the power went out, and he said, well, we don't have any problem with power. We have lots of power. In fact, they don't, but he was just used to the situation that they were in. This is part of the research team that worked up there. You can see Meru in the background. My colleague Alan Diddick with the tea in his hand, the chai, and then Natalie Seba, Matt McCandless, and Kristen Kent. This is the daba that we ate most often in Josimat. The food's almost as good as Thai food. You can see, this is once you get up the mountains, again, Josimat's down below. You can start to see some of the peaks, the high peaks across the top. Nanda Devi's just off there are many high peaks in this area where we were working. And this is just one of the applied research project partnership meetings we had with the community while we were there. The work was done with my colleague, Dr. R.B. Singh, who's standing up speaking right now from the University of Delhi. And the man sitting in the chair with the brown coat on is Dr. Jim Gardner. Jim initiated our research in India. He came to Manitoba about the same time I did to be vice president of the university. He'd done many years of work in Pakistan, in the Karakoram, looking at water, glacier melt, and water availability. And one of those trips, he came across the mountains and down through Manali, and that's when he decided that might be a good spot for doing some more research. That would have been 1992 when Meru first met Jim Gardner. So a little bit about these hydro projects that we studied. So the state of Uttarakhand is one of 5 that has great potential for hydro development because of the fast-moving rivers, obviously. And they figured that there's 20,000 megawatts of capacity that could be tapped into. And they're currently only using about 1.1, or just over 1,000 megawatts. And the country suffers from a power deficit. So there were two projects that we looked at. One was the Vishnu Prayag project, and it was in the advanced stages of development when we were there. It will cost about $473 million to develop and is a 400 megawatt project. It diverts the Alakananda River through a 12-kilometer tunnel to the Daliganga River. And well, those rivers are very important because they are the headwaters of the Ganga, of the Ganges. So they're sacred rivers. And there were significant effects in Chain Village and Lambergath villages. This is just a picture of the barrage site. So this is where the tunnel starts. Those gates will be closed and then the water will head through that tunnel. It's a very active system. The rubble pile that you see at the end of the slide there, that's not from construction. That was from a flooding that occurred the season before. It's a very active, very steep environment. This is the powerhouse site. So this is where the tunnel will come out, just down from that road, and Chain Village is in that site. So there's up the side of the mountain, you can see Chain Village. So you can see the rice paddies, the paddy fields. That people are still engaged in agriculture as well as some tourism. And this is where the powerhouse site has been built. Thank you. This road was one of the things that was promised to Chain Village. They were not linked. They didn't have a link road down to the main highway. The road has never been completed. The area is just very active. As you can see, landslides are extremely active in this area. This is the workers' camp here, the main offices, and that's Chain Village again over on this side.